superfoods don't exist. Whether did egg become a superfood? Just really nutritionally dense. Great. But we always should look at trying to upgrade your food. If you have a protein bar every day, how can you improve that? How can you make it more filling?
Who the hell do you listen to? Who's right, who's wrong? Because 1 minute chicken's the god of all foods, next minute it's being demonised in the next article.
You've got to look and go, oh, they're actually just trying to sell me a product. They're trying to sell me some powder. They're trying to sell me spirulina.
Clubbing was very much the thing, and now it's kind of, dinners have become the new trend. Everyone goes out for dinners.
I think supplements are absolutely amazing. Nutritionists seem to be really nervous to say that. Like, they don't want to say it because they might get deep, but they're absolutely amazing.
It's just, it is what it is. People write different things.
And that's crazy. So can you fully say that I know what's going on mentally, psychologically, and physically, biomechanically? No.
I don't know why I've never clocked it before, but yeah, you're completely right. Welcome back to the Not Quite Pod. Today we've got Alex with us. Alex, you just quickly want to introduce yourself and let everyone know a bit about yourself.
Hi, how are we doing? Yeah, I'm Alex. So I'm a performance nutritionist, mainly working in football, but I also run my own self-employed business, Strength and Nutrition, where I work with a variety of different athletes from young to the very, very old, competing in a variety of different sports. And I'm also trying to complete my PhD.
Amazing. I'm actually really excited about this. As a fitness head myself and an Paralympic swimmer, quotation marks, really excited about this conversation. So first things first, what got you into nutrition?
Yeah, so this is actually one of the hardest questions I get asked, because the actual answer is I kind of just fell into it. I was at university doing sports and exercise science, and then I did a module on nutrition with someone called Billy Spur, who's a lecturer at University of Chichester, who's really amazing, really engaging. And I felt that, I don't know if everyone's been to university can relate, but it's very hard to listen to a lecture for 1, 2, 3 hours. I know this because I teach now, and I know it's very difficult for students to stay in tuned. But what I found in nutrition is it was so kind of relatable and actionable that as soon as I left the lecture, I was going into the canteen and I could see the kind of science as I was walking through. And that for me, for someone who's maybe like, I don't know if it's my dyslexia or dyspraxia, I just kind of felt like it pieced together much easier than looking at something like biomechanics where we're looking at jump height. Now, I will say nutrition is a discipline of sports science. You still have to do those other things as well. But the majority of it, you can go as simple as you like with nutrition. And that's why I like it. And you can make it really impactful. So kind of fell into it. And also, I think that nutrition is so prevalent in everyone's walk of life, whether or not you're interested or you are interested. If you're like me, like trying to get a PhD, really, really interested, but also someone who just wants to eat a little bit healthier, both can have sort of impactful advice and you can be really supportive.
100%. And I think as well, it's that whole thing, like you say, it's the subject matter of nutrition, particularly sport nutrition, but just nutrition as a wider thing. It's something everyone can sort of understand because everyone has real life experience of it, really, without actually intending for them to have real life experience. So like, I completely get that. And also on the dyslexic point, I hear that as well. There's just certain subjects that just click better than others. And definitely. I think I fell into the YouTube fitness era. So I ended up in a rabbit hole when I was doing A-levels, learning all about it. Didn't want to take it forward. But yeah, I love like also how different things can manipulate different areas. So like the thing of like when I used to compete. I used to compete in competitive swimming, and the fact that you'd see all the swimmers down in like little tiny jellies or little like cubes of jelly purely to give them the sugar hit because I was one of them. They were the sprinters that we needed that instant hit, where you'd watch the longer racers have a completely different approach. But those little things make such a difference. But then coming back to real life as well, those little tiny adjustments of trying to get people not to view their diet as one big, like they view it at a very daily basis, whereas rather looking at it like it's a 6-month project or a year project rather than you need to be nailing it down every week. And it's those small changes. But anyway, I'm going on a massive tangent, as I say, because it's quite a passion topic for me as well. But like, So what then led you to go, okay, I'm now going to dive headfirst into this?
I think you kind of summarise it quite nicely there about how it's different in different populations, but also the similarities of the general public and athletes. So, just your everyday swimmer, for example, can benefit from having a sweet during their lane runs or lane swimming or just their general swimming, just so they don't get a sort of energy drop afterwards. But also same for athletes to meet the demands. And then when I started to figure that out, I have like a PT background in health. I knew I could maybe combine still working with my general public, but also my new clients, hopefully, which would be in the elite sport.
Yeah.
So I think it was sort of like third year, and I started discussing it more about my sort of business plan that I want to achieve. I'd highly recommend people do that if they're at university now, and they kind of have sort of some sort of plan in action of how they're going to use their skills. And when I realized I can use these skills, and if you think about the kind of trend, particularly now there's a political battle with the election and stuff, and there's a lot of conversation about pointless university degrees. It's kind of like a theme at the moment. So that was still prevalent when I was at university 5-6 years ago. So when I was sort of hearing that, I thought, okay, let's actually do something about it and think about what I can achieve being a nutritionist. And so far it's not going too badly, but there's still lots of work to do. But when you can see an actual kind of outcome and a goal from what you're trying to work towards, often when you're trying to do that in nutrition, someone else comes along and maybe publishes a paper before you, or someone else who jumps on the trend before you. But that's fine. That's just the way I think any discipline goes. But definitely when you can find that your skills are valuable and you can actually earn money out of it. So instead of having like a hard sell, or I'm trying to sell you this product, but I don't really believe in it. Actually, I believe in all the nutrition talk that I speak about because it's relatable and achievable, as well as trying to actually help people, whether or not you're in general public, maybe just recovering from a surgery, or if you're a high profile athlete trying to recover from an ACL injury, or just general sickness. There's so many different aspects. And when I saw that, I thought, this is great for my brain. That doesn't stop. I can do lots of different things and actually help people and have a really strong business behind it as well.
Did you ever worry about it? Because even when I was leaving school, everyone was leaving and diving into sort of the fitness space. Did you ever worry that it was becoming oversaturated when you were building your business plan? Did you ever worry that it was becoming oversaturated and everyone wanted to do it, and you were worrying what was going to make you different in comparison to everyone else?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And I think maybe I'm a bit different and I'm not the most business minded, but I don't think an oversaturated market is necessarily the worst market to get into. I think that what it does is it helps you, if you look at it right now, what people are doing in nutrition, they're using other people's content to make their own content, and they're trying to outdo everyone. And it's like kind of like working off each other. I don't do that, but that's a potential avenue you can go down. And I think the more good people in nutrition, now unfortunately this market is saturated with very poor nutrition advice, which is widespread, because unfortunately nutrition in the UK is unregulated, and you could go on a one-day course and call yourself a nutritionist or start an Instagram page tomorrow and legally be able to give advice. There's a wider problem, which is very frustrating when you've got qualification, you've worked hard, and you actually do read the literature.
Yeah.
This is normally when I'd name call, but I've stopped doing that now. I've stopped calling people out on podcasts because I got told off for it.
But I'm happy for you to do it. You can do it if you want to.
But like a really good example is Tonic. It's like a new supplement brand, and they're really popular. The guy goes into a supermarket, and he basically says that it's toxic, poison, and people believe it. And I totally understand why. It's relatable. They're in the supermarket, you buy that. But what I tell people, we're going a bit more into nutrition advice, is think about that one meal that you're having in a total of 365 days of your yearly life.
Yeah.
Like, how does that meal or snack really impact you? Is it really toxic? Do you think that Asda, Sainsbury's are going to put something toxic every day for you to buy? Probably not. You'd hope not. And I don't think they would do.
Yeah.
I know we've had issues of things like horse meat and so on, but generally speaking, the food which eating is not toxic, but I think our behaviours can become so. Something my PhD in dietary behaviours is that, we get trapped into like almost like a negative way of life around our food, always trying to use it as an achievement, always trying to use it to dismiss our behaviours or have a negative impact on ourselves. But one of the best advice, and it's not even from university degree, it's maybe from more of a personal experience, is that if you pick up a product that's been demonized, are you having it every day, or are you just having it now and again? Is your diet pretty much well balanced? Do you enjoy your food? Are you happy? What's the issue? And I think that's the same with athletes as well as general population. The only thing with athletes I would say is that sometimes food timing is very, very important, and sometimes just having it away from certain times. But as soon as you get that education, people can start making positive changes rather than, one of the biggest things I do when I work with people, they say, if they want to lose weight, put on muscle, we always should look at trying to upgrade your food. So just what can you improve? If you have a protein bar every day, how can you improve that? How can you make it more filling? Protein bars aren't the most nutritious. Great. So add some yogurt to it. You're trying to put on weight, add some seeds, almonds, and honey. Just little things like that can start building a much better nutritional profile. And that's not degree level. This is why I love it, because a lot of this is just basic habits that can really support someone in long term.
I think as well, like you hit that on the head, sometimes just pointing out to people, don't overthink it. Because I think too many people, like you say, with the boom of social media and everyone's out there giving out nutrition advice, it becomes very, who the hell do you listen to? Who's right, who's wrong? Because 1 minute chicken's the god of all foods, next minute it's being demonized in the next article. So it's like, who do you believe? And I think it's just about, as I say, I always say, take it with a pinch of salt. And also, like you say, one day is not going to make a massive difference. It's about consistency and finding something you can stick to. I know that sounds like what everyone says, but it's true. It's the one thing is if you can stick to it, great. If it works for you, great. Don't overthink it.
I think absolutely right. Sticking to it is right. And that's the same for athletes and for general population. If you start doing something that's only going to last 1 or 2 weeks, what impact is that going to have? Now, for athletes, that might mean they're trying to make weight or they're trying to build something for an event. That makes total sense. But come away from that. Let's just take a general population. You work just like myself, normal. What impacts are they going to have on my life? Pretty minimal. I'm better off just instilling good habits throughout the week, throughout my month, throughout the year, and just trying to take less pressure, because people have so much pressure on themselves what food they eat. Or I'm going to eat salads now for a week because I want to lose weight. Weight gain takes weeks, months, and so on. So are you going to eat that for 7 months? You're only going to lose a pound a week, 1 to 2 pounds, depending on who you are. So trying to instill long-term habits is really what nutrition is about. And that's why I quite like now where my PhD's gone and what a lot of research is going in, trying to instill dietary behaviors to meet nutritional guidelines. Whereas before we used to kind of just focus on, we need to hit this amount of carbohydrate, this amount of protein, this amount of fat. Whereas now we're looking into like key factors and determinants on why we don't achieve that. And what's really interesting is just how individualized it is. So, for your listeners, what we're doing now in the athlete world is looking at the COM-B model. Sounds really fancy, but it's really simple. I'm basically dismissing my whole PhD, but it's really a simple construct in that you take your individual or a group and you look at your capabilities, opportunities, and motivations towards eating well or meeting nutritional guidelines. And once you depict your barriers, you can then overcome them and have less stress, less worry. And it's a much less formal way of looking at nutrition. And a lot of nutritionists now, health-based nutritionists, unfortunately, still look at just food diaries. They just look at the outcome variables of what you're eating. Can we eat some more veg? But have we looked at why we're not eating more veg? Is it where they live? Do they not have a supermarket that has good veg around them? Okay, great. Can we do something about that? So looking at a much more holistic approach.
Well, how would you start that as someone that's obviously listening to this going, that's great, but how do you start that learning?
Yeah. So first of all, have the people that you're listening to be reputable and that use evidence-based. Now, just because they use evidence-based, that doesn't mean that research is applicable to you, but at least you're getting your information from really good sources. Try and avoid the people that are demonizing food constantly or telling you to go on a single diet. That's also, I think, a really negative effect. Go vegan because of this. Go carnivore because of this. You better go with someone that's going to go for eat everything, and you can take the best bits of what works for you in your daily life. Because you work 9 to 5, for example. If you're taking advice from an influencer who that's their job to eat well, eat healthy, eat a certain way, look a certain way, you're not going to represent that. That's not your population. And when I say general population, sometimes I think we should take people like influencers out of that because their work in life is so different.
Yeah.
Second of all, do some reflection work. I know it sounds a little bit painful, a bit boring. And I remember when I was in psychology, they talk about reflection. I think, gosh, I've got to listen to myself. But just reflecting on what you do day to day and how you can go through your foods and upgrade them. So if you're having a bagel for breakfast, how can I make this more nutritionally dense? I'll add some smoked salmon. I'll add some cucumber. I'll add a salad to that. All of a sudden, my food is upgraded by, 10 seconds of advice. I go to my lunch, I'm having a jacket potato, beans and cheese. What can I add to that to make add a side fruit bowl? Just again, because they're all nutritionally good foods, it's just about upgrading and trying to improve. And then what you might find is that over, there's too many calories in that for you. So then you just reduce it. You take out the honey of your yogurt. You just have the berries and the yogurt in your favorite yogurt. You don't need to always go for the Greek yogurt because the person says so. It works for you. But definitely take your second point is definitely take a reflection and try and upgrade your foods to be better. Just have a think, how can I improve it? And also just seek advice. I don't think it's a problem to go and seek advice from a really good nutrition. Not even myself, someone that you can relate to. If I don't relate to you, if you don't like sports, if you don't like this kind of thing, and go with someone else who is reputable, I don't think that's an issue either. I think a lot of nutritionists feel like they have to sell themselves and be the person to give the advice. But for me, I think it's just, I only work with people that can actually work with me. If we can work together, we're going to get really good outcomes. If we can't, I can definitely refer you on to someone who might be better for you. You might be a little bit more nervous, a little bit more shy about your food, and maybe you don't like the way I do things. That's absolutely fine. There's other people out there that are very good. But definitely do your due diligence on, I should push that word, but I feel like I'm on my university lectures right now. Do your kind of homework and just have a look at people. Are they demonizing food? Are they trying to sell you something? But the best people, and social media is the avenue for nutrition at the moment. Whether it should be or not, I think it's a different argument. You've got to look and go, oh, they're actually just trying to sell me a product. They're trying to sell me some powder. They're trying to sell me spirulina because it's a superfood, which don't even exist. Superfoods don't exist. Whether did egg become a superfood? Just really nutritionally dense. Great. Technically, then Haribo is a superfood because they can help you perform better. It doesn't make, try and avoid these marketing ploys and just get someone who's honest, has a really good background in nutrition and that relates to you. And then you can really start building and have a really good long-term future. Remember, you want to work with someone that's going to give you those skills and constructs that's going to last more than a week, 2 week, 3 week, or your summer holiday. It's the things that are going to help you long-term. I just recently worked with someone who did an ultra marathon, and they don't need to work with me again for an ultra marathon because they have all the tools and all the skills necessary. They might want to do one check-in just to see if everything's doing right, everything's going well, and they can then have those skills to go forward in any sport they want to. So that's what I recommend.
Definitely, and I think you hit the nail on the head as well. Get a base level of knowledge to start with, because I think that's just nail the basics. It's like anything. I suppose both of us coming from a sport background, if you nail the basics, it becomes easier to learn other things. And I think, as I always come back to, just don't overthink it. But one thing I wanted to ask you, and I am going slightly off piece, is two things that are very, very common and talked about a lot at the moment in the nutrition and health space is, one, alcohol. We're seeing a lot of people all lean towards sobriety now. So what are you seeing as a trend with clients? What's your opinions on it? Obviously, it's a whole thing of, like you say, you don't demonize it. If people enjoy it, it's fine. But what are you seeing as sort of trends with clients, and what advice would you give?
Yeah, so I haven't actually seen any research. I might be out of the space on whether or not there's a decrease in alcohol consumption amongst certain age groups. But what I do know is in the particularly my area in Brighton, over 9 or 10 nightclubs have shut down because of low footfall. And same in London, where I work with Fulham, in the Fulham, Putney, West London area. I think 6 have just recently sort of closed down post-COVID because of low footfall. Now, obviously, COVID is a big factor. But you are seeing a trend of less people sort of going to these nightclubs. When I'm back in when I was 18, 19, so that used to be the kind of thing to do. That used to be the kind of general norms. But there's definitely a trend and a movement towards, I'm not sure about going sober, but definitely a less party kind of lifestyle. Yeah. But what I definitely am seeing, it's not leading on to better healthy habits. I haven't seen a trend towards, I'm not drinking, I'm therefore going to be healthier. It's more of a case of cost, financial, time, rather than health. However, I haven't seen any public health data being published. Maybe I've missed it.
No, as I say, I haven't. There's just been a big push, particularly from the conversations I've had on here and also the conversations I've seen in the wider community, of people are leaning towards now reducing their alcohol consumption for whatever reasons, whether it's health, like you say, financial, or it was just interesting to see what your perspective of it is, particularly, as you say, like even from my generation, clubbing was very much the thing, and now it's kind of no one really does it. It's very much, I think dinners have become the new trend. Everyone goes out for dinners.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just interesting to sort of see how that's changing, because I think it's particularly as a UK thing. UK has such a big drinking culture, so it's interesting to see that slowly shift as well. Also, how do you find that with clients? Because even, I mean, my sporting career was mostly sort of towards the end of my school career, so drinking didn't really come into it till very late. But how do you deal with that as a sports nutritionist with clients wanting to drink every now and again? How do you manage that?
So firstly, I'll tell them the negative impacts and the social dynamics of drinking. So for example, if we do a really hard session of exercise and then we drink afterwards, we typically blunt our recovery. So once you get that kind of knowledge and you understand that actually alcohol within your exercise program is detrimental, you usually get a nice positive behavior change without demonizing the alcohol itself. You're just saying that when you drink this with combining the two together, we get a negative outcome. Yeah. Now, the usual problem with athletes I find is when they go home, that's usually a really tough point. They usually, particularly young athletes, they go home and then they sort of see their friends and maybe they're having a drink. And it's all about just giving them tools to soak up that peer pressure. So often it's not coming from the nutritionist. The nutritionist can only give you the information about what alcohol does. It's usually ex-players, ex-pros, or I hate to say it, influencers that are actually probably more impactful in that sense, because they can tell them, because they're already where they want to be, or they're already looking the way they want to look, and they can say, I've been sober, when they're probably not. They're probably just lying. But they say they're sober for 10 years and this is what happens. There's much more to it than just drinking. If you think about when you drink, you wake up a hangover, what usually happens? You usually make poor food choices. You have poor sleep. Poor sleep leads to bad food choices. Poor food choices usually lead to micronutrient deficiencies, low energy intake, or high energy intake, depending on the person. So there's an offset when you drink. There's a consequence to that. But I think, personally, I haven't drunk now for about 3 years. I just don't like the taste of it. It's just, and I don't think the social dynamics of drinking, that you have to drink to be included. It's not something that I really enjoyed. Particularly because when I worked in London, whoever works in London, on a Thursday night, everyone goes out. The Thursday night is a night out to go in London. If you don't drink, you're kind of a little bit of an outsider. But in different countries, it's very different. You can go and actually have a sparkling water, and that's very common. They have it free. And in England, we don't do that. I think there's going to be a shift, but I think alcohol will always be a strong culture of England and UK. I think now the weather's out. I live in Brighton. Everyone's out on the pubs, on the seafront drinking, and it's I went out for a walk at 12 p.m. So it's still quite strong, but I'll be interested to look at the shift and see where that shift is coming from. And I wonder if it's because of when COVID happened, people's behaviors completely changed from psychological, physical, and nutrition based. People got really into nutrition. There was definitely an uptake of better nutritional habits, mainly in terms of sort of trying things out. People were starting Instagram pages, people were just trying new things. And I wonder if they've realized that they can be healthier without the alcohol, because they haven't got their friends to drink with.
Yeah, it's very true. Very true.
Evidence. That's not, I would say, that's research based, but definitely from more of an anecdotal point of view.
Definitely. And the other question I wanted to ask is, obviously, we've seen a big shift towards a lot of people, myself included, using supplementation. How have you seen that shift? Because you're a lot more at the coalface, I think is the saying, in terms of how do you utilize it. But then you also see, as you said, you're seeing loads of products come out and it's not necessarily fully research based. So what experience have you got of that?
Yeah. The supplement industry. Wow. It's incredible industry. I think supplements are absolutely amazing. I mean, nutritionists seem to be really nervous to say that. Like, they don't want to say it because they might get deep, but they're absolutely amazing. What we've been able to achieve with supplements, we've got omega-3s for people that can't eat fish. We've got, vitamin D for deficiencies in England. Amazing. What's happened, like lots of things, is being exploited. I think that there are so many products out there that are so unnecessary. And again, back to the superfood point, it gets branded as something that it's not. When do you really need it? I mean, if you take a multivitamin and you have a highly balanced diet, you can actually run the risk of micronutrients toxicity. So there's actually a negative impact. It's very rare, and you typically have to consume a lot, but it is possible. Same with vitamin D. If you take too much vitamin D, that can be detrimental. And there's lots of people just pushing the products that you have to have it. For sleep, you have to have magnesium. You have to have omega-3s for your heart health. You don't need that per se. You can have a very good diet and not need any supplements at all. What I would recommend people to look at is the Australian supplement website, where it has group A, B, C, D, and E. And basically that just has all the supplements that are research-based to all the ones that are not. So all the ones that I would recommend are on there. They're all on group A. They're the ones that I say, these do work. This is how they work. Like creatine, for example. They're very prevalent products. If you go on any supplement website, creatine will be the number one selling product. It's an unbelievable supplement. Potentially the work now being done with dyslexia is really, really promising. It's very new, but it's very exciting on how it can support dyslexia.
I've not seen that.
It's really exciting. What it can do to help cognitive function. Really fascinating. But what's even on the flip side of that, if you go to a doctor and get a blood test and you've been taking creatine for 3 to 6 months, your creatine stores will be above the NHS limit. There's a little bit of, again, their NHS, I would never go against them because they are the accredited people in this country, but there does need to be behaviour change amongst health services as well as for supplements, as well as people selling the supplements alongside that. Another good example is, I know you had CBD podcast on here as well. CBD is like this, considered this miracle kind of drug for certain things, and quite fascinating what it does, particularly now if you look at work from Liverpool John Moores about the receptors you have in your body, the CBD1, CBD2, that we actually have potential receptors in the body to receive it. Fascinating. But that industry is being exploited by putting CBD oil on the supermarkets or on certain marketplaces, which isn't CBD oil. And it just says it is, and it's a low grade, or it's not quite what it is. They put a leaf picture on there. And if you look at information from UCAL, which is anti-doping, they took, this is in the US, I think it was, I think 9 out of 12 bottles of CBD oil wasn't actually what it was something else. And they were missed dosages. So again, I'm probably putting people off, but I think, again, go to an accredited person who knows what they're doing and they can recommend you supplements. For me, the best supplements, I don't sponsored by anyone, but Healthspan Elite is a really good supplement. They also sponsor New Zealand Rugby Nation. And Applied Nutrition is what we use at Fulham. They're also a really good company. They're just really simple products. That's why I quite like them. They haven't gone into a different kind of area. They've stayed in their lane. Ones I would avoid, I think, are like My Protein. Avoid them. But the reason being is that companies that use people that are not nutritionists to give nutrition advice can't be trusted. I think that should be illegal. I don't think that should be allowed. Now, you could look half decent, put some decent photos up, do some photoshopping, take your top off, and you can get sponsored by My Protein, discount code, and sell your supplements to your trusted followers. I think that's so wrong. I think that's so toxic, and I think that's and some people have argued to me that that's like an ego thing of being a nutritionist and your kind of like imposter syndrome and things. I think it's just a genuine concern that people are giving advice that are not nutritionists. I think that's such a dodgy. You wouldn't go to a non-doctor and get doctor's advice. You might do that. You do that, please don't do it. Like, don't go to your covered for but like go to someone who's accredited in that area. And I think everyone has an opinion on nutrition. Everyone thinks they're a nutritionist. I can give someone all the evidence in the world on a supplement or a behavior or something that doesn't work, and they still won't believe me because of their attitudes and beliefs. And that's just behavior. And sometimes you can't change that, but I wouldn't get involved. I would stay away from that lane and get yourself into a nice positive area, a nice positive lane of people that are telling you you can have. If you're doing a supplement, they're actually not branded by someone. They're not going to make, if you do make money of it, great. But if it's coming from a place of good information, you're just selling it for subscriptions and so on. I think that's very toxic.
I completely agree. And I think I didn't even think about the aspect until you mentioned it, about the fact that the people giving the advice aren't qualified to give the advice. Because as I say, you get sucked into the content creator influencer space, and it is what it is. People promote different things. I didn't even think about the repercussions of, they don't actually know, they know roughly what they're selling, but they don't actually know the proper impact of what they're selling either.
I think they know probably the outcome variable. For example, magnesium citronate, the very popular supplement right now for sleep. But that person could have sleep apnea. They could have sleep issues for the last 15 years. They should be seeing me. They should be seeing a sleep doctor. They need someone with a different skill to me. That's the problem. And then you start them giving falsified information or false hope. A guy there, he's on some gear. He looks amazing. Great. He's worked really hard. He's got a bottle of creatine, selling it to young kids, 16 to 18 are starting out in the gym. And I was that person when I was, 16, 17, starting out. I look at that and go, oh, great. He's selling that product. And like you say there, you don't think of repercussions. When you're buying a product, sometimes you don't think about that. It's just £20 done. And then all of a sudden you've just spent 60, 70 quid on supplements without really knowing what's going on. And something that we don't really understand is when you combine supplements together, what happens then? Can you get a bit of an upset stomach? Can you get stitches? Can you cause more dehydration? There's lots of different aspects. That's why sometimes, when I see people that come to me, they're like on 12 different supplements, I'm like, why? What is the reason for that? And sometimes maybe it's necessary for medical conditions. That's fine. But if you can have, oily fish, then you don't need omega-3s.
Yeah.
You don't need to buy them. Maybe a good example here, this is why it's good to work with nutritionists, is that, let's say omega-3, take a 10% omega-3 train, that we know also it's really good for eye health. So you'd be surprised how many issues athletes have with just the odd different things like their teeth from eating too much sugar, or their eye health because they suffer from styes in the swimming pool. These little things that happen, and actually omega-3s can be really beneficial for that. So actually you're taking it away from nutrition and you're helping them with another problem. So that's why, again, you shouldn't be using other people that aren't accredited and just don't know. And the best people, I think, are the ones that say, actually, I don't know, I'm going to find out.
Yeah.
I have for example, I have a strong network of a medical team to work with, physiotherapists, S&C coaches. If I don't know, I'll just say, and I'll be right back in an hour. I can let you know what another expert's told me and what I then think, and then what we should do. Do we agree? That's how you get good practitioner skills, I think.
Completely agree. And as I say, you've opened my eyes to, I didn't even, as I say, the influencer thing. I was like, actually, that makes complete sense. I don't know why I've never clocked it before, but yeah, you're completely right. What, for those that aren't really well versed in the world, what makes you different? You're a sports nutritionist. What makes you different to what people may know as like a traditional nutritionist or that doesn't specialize in that field?
Yeah, so typically you can go down two routes for nutrition. There's a nutrition for health and a nutrition or sports nutrition. That's quite a typical route that people go down. Doing nutrition for health, you look at things like policy, you look at working for areas of like public health, and you typically stay in a lane of kind of like, you start with maybe obesity or weight loss, and then you branch out maybe into diabetes, other public health kind of areas. It's not exclusive. You can definitely cross-change and collaborate. That's a very typical route that I see when I work at University of Roehampton. When I teach the public health and I teach the sports nutrition, there's a clear different route that people go down. On the sports nutrition, I think you definitely have a wider variety you can work with, but you typically work with people that are sport related or competing at some sort of level, and you can give you that opportunity to work at the very, very top end of elite athlete. So you can go to the very top of football, very top of rugby, but bearing in mind between grassroots to the elite, there's many people in between them. There's kind of like semi-pro. Women's football when I first started wasn't really professional. It was maybe just one league. Now there's many players now getting paid at the lower tiers. There's a whole new clientele to work with. But I definitely think when you work in the more health industry, you work much more on kind of public health kind of issues. We have a problem with obesity in this country, so there's quite a lot of schemes for that. You try and generate. It's actually very hard, by the way. If anyone is thinking about going into public health, sometimes I get frustrated by what they do, but my goodness, they have to account for literally everything. Every individual, they can't, there's certain, just from the tech to the messaging, it has to be so exclusive. It's really tough, but it's a really exciting area and a prevalent issue that we have in, we have many nutritional deficiencies in this country. So they're kind of the different routes. But I would say is, if you're a nutrition for health, you can definitely do a master's in sports nutrition. You can show the skills, because it's all similar. You've got to try and find out what the individual needs, what the actual outcomes, what behavior change do we need, what knowledge are they coming from, do they need motivation, capabilities, opportunity. It's very similar. And that's why I still work in health. And I recently sort of finished some health work in sort of cancer rehabilitation. That's nothing to do with sports nutrition, that's completely health. But if you look at these sort of attainable achievements, in a athlete, we want them to get them to jump higher and run faster. I'm going to nutritionally try and help them fuel better and more carbohydrates, potentially better recovery. Then to take it over to this lady that I was working with, trying to just lift a kettle up because they lost strength from chemotherapy. I've still got to fuel them appropriately. I've still got to get them to eat. I still get them enough, recover well from chemotherapy. So there's very similar trends. I'm not saying that chemotherapy and jumping is the same thing, but just in terms of your kind of working with people, it's all about your individual approachable skills. Then you can help someone, regardless of kind of where you're sitting on the fence of nutrition for health, sports nutrition.
Where would you look? I mean, I didn't even think of the element of looking at it for like cancer patients and things like that. So what sort of, obviously you can't give advice on the whole topic because it's so wide, but like what would you be looking at for nutrition for a cancer patient?
Yeah, it's a really good example. So the most prevalent one I get is when you have esophageal cancer. You typically you may have a surgery, you can't really swallow. So we have to find foods that are perishable in the mouth that can actually be swallowed. So lots of smoothies, nutrition complete smoothies, because as soon as you can't swallow food, you become deficient in energy and micronutrients. Yeah. So there's immediate, and then they have to go through their treatment and survive treatment and recover from treatment. So being nutritionally fueled is absolutely paramount to their survival. Just to be able to get out of bed, they need the energy to get out of bed. Now, it is very hard, and it's an area that I've come out of because it was so challenging. It was, you ring someone one day, and then 3 weeks later you ring them and they passed away. It gets very, very tough. But I'm so glad I did it for a year, and I learned so much about sort of interpersonal skills. With athletes, that can be quite harsh. Whereas these guys are going through it, and just to see them make their own smoothie is incredible. Having the strength to get out, lift the kettle, lift the blender is absolutely fantastic. But that's a really like kind of like an easy one to talk about. Just trying to get someone to swallow. That's a real problem with people that have esophageal cancer. Yeah, and you can go in more one. And you have dietitians. That's another thing in public. People that go for nutrition for health, you can specialise to be a dietitian in cancer. We have a million services here in Brighton that are fantastic. So that's another route you can go down.
Yeah, there is. The more I'm thinking about it, you could go. I suppose it's the more you specialise. It's the more you specialise in a certain area. That's where sort of you really drill down into it, I'd imagine.
Yeah, and I would definitely say, mainly on my own experiences, I think specialising is one of the best things I did, because it really allowed me to hone in on an area whilst slowly working other areas to bring into what I'm learning as well. But becoming kind of, I don't like the word expert, because I feel like I'm only 5, 6, 7 years into this, and I don't feel like an expert yet. There's still more to learn. The more I do my PhD, the less I know about behaviour change. So, but definitely trying to specialise in an area and focusing on that area is, for me, really helpful. Other people might disagree, and they might really just enjoy learning the basics of different areas, and that's also fine, provided you're coming from a good place, good source of information, and your outcomes are actually to help people. Of course, everyone's got to get paid, they've got to get a job, that's absolutely fine. But as long as your overall aim is to not pile them on the supplement brands that you're sponsored by, all this other thing you're trying to sell them, this powder that's supposed to be amazing, spirulina, fantastic. There's other things you need to work on before you do that. Magnesium for your sleep. You still got to have good sleep habits. You still got to go to bed, without blue light and so on. So that's kind of the place where I'm coming from.
Yeah, that's fair enough. What's your special? Like, so obviously we spoke about your PhD, but what is your specialist area as it stands at the moment? Where do you spend most of your time?
Yeah, so at the moment, definitely my area of specialty is in football, and I've done football now since I first started at Portsmouth, to Gillingham, to Fulham. So I've been pretty much fell into football and then never stopped. So definitely I'd say football nutrition is where I stand. But during that time, I branched out into other team sports. So now I like to say I'm a team sports specialist. Yeah. If someone was to ask me where would your credentials lie, but most recently I had some really good success in ultramarathon running, marathons, but definitely that team sport. And then I'll subside of that in my PhD. I'm working particularly in young athletes. So my whole PhD the last 3 years is in young athletes, in particular 12 to 16-year-olds. And why that's so important, 12, 16-year-old, if you have a son or if you're listening and you know someone that age, they go for rapid growth and development. So they increase height, stature, really rapid during that time. You could be looking at a 12-year-old son, one day, and then in 6 months' time, they could have grown exponentially. It's a crazy time. But particularly when they play an elite sport, they burn a lot of energy. Now, if you look at work from Hannon's at Liverpool John Moores, they saw a range of like 3,000 to 5,000 calories burned. And what we have now is some good indication that young athletes burn more calories than adults. So imagine that you're going through growth and maturation, and they're burning more calories than their adult counterparts. So that's why it's such a fascinating area. And I'm trying to help them with a behaviour change intervention and trying to support your young footballers and then young athletes as well when it finishes.
Definitely. And then, because I'm now going back to when I used to compete, and then you had for me, obviously adding a disability on top, that calorie deficit just rises and rises. It's a really interesting space. And I think as well, particularly from your area of football, we're seeing younger and younger professionals come through. They're breaking in so much earlier than they used to. I mean, you can even sit with the England squad at the Euros now. I don't even know what the average age is, but it's definitely not that high.
Yeah, I think, and the more consideration, if you look at Yamal, who's in Spain, he's 16 years old playing in the men's game. So his energy expenditure is higher than probably all of his teammates. We need to research that and confirm that. But if we look at the indication of what the body of evidence shows us so far, that's a strong suggestion. So he needs extra support in bringing in those calories, in the energy intake, food timing. Not to say that his teammates are less important, but there's definitely higher consideration, because if we don't do that, we blunt his growth and maturation, we run the risk of more injury and illness, and we've potentially jeopardize his playing career for the next 20. They play now to look at Pepe and Ronaldo. I know they're a bit obscure, but they're 40 years old. I know that situation right now looks like the best time of his career, but as a practitioner, it's so important for us to step back and go, actually, look at his loading. It's so high. He's not been eating. We're never going to have the say of saying he can't play. We would never say that, but we would have to come up with an intervention to say we need to increase our support for this player. And that's why it's such a fascinating area. I think people have undervalued young athletes, particularly in football. I think current research is it's like 1% of players make it in a year runs academy. It's so low. I think it's even lower than that. Make it into the first team. So people don't really care. If we talk about the kind of toxicness of sport, if a player isn't going to make it, they're going to be sold on, and the support is going to go to the players that are going to make it into the first team, going to be much more higher profile, because you have limited time. I don't have time to work with 40, 50 players. So you have to come up with interventions potentially to try and help them for their long-term health. Your mindset is always about long-term health. It's never just about performance. How can I help this player have a long-term playing career? That's and then long-term health, low injury risk, low illness rates. That's really, really important. And I think that's kind of like the fundamental job of a sports nutritionist, to step back and kind of say, I want them to take caffeine chewing gum. I want them to take energy gels, Lucozade. Cool. Let's just take one step back and let's just improve their overall health. And then let's move on to performance.
Yeah. How do you get that through to young athletes though? Because even like thinking about when I was younger, coach, it's hard, because I think as well it's hard for them to realize how important nutrition is at that time, because obviously you want to listen to your coaches, but your coaches are like, oh, you need to be doing this and this. It's like, it's not really that important. How do you get through to those younger athletes of going, actually, no, this is really going to help you in the long run?
This is my PhD, so I'm glad you asked. So really interesting, you mentioned coaches. In fact, from my research, coaches were the highest, they were the ranked number one source of information they wanted. So they wanted the information to come from the coaches. One, because they had the most trust. Two, because they made the decision whether or not they progressed on. So they did good nutrition work for nutritionists. They didn't see much value. If they did it and the coaches saw it and they marked it and they kind of accredited it and gave feedback, they far more enjoyed that and they got much more value out of it. Which is fascinating, really, because coaches have so much to do, but that kind of makes sense. If you think about young athletes, they spend most of their time with the coach. They only really get 1 or 2 hours with a nutritionist, 1 or 2 hours with an S&C coach. So that coach is almost like part of their, I wouldn't want to say family, but extended family, because they're coming in 3 or 4 times a week for 3 to 4 hours a day. That's a huge amount of time for a young athlete. If you think about their working day, they're at school, they go home for a quick bit of food, they come to football, and then they go home. Some days they'll see the coach more than their parents. And that's crazy. And that's why they've got such a strong relationship, and they want that kind of acknowledgement of nutrition. But what's key is to look at the opportunities, capabilities, the motivation. A quick run through of what my PhD found is that in terms of motivation, they always wanted performance feedback. They want to know what nutrition done for their performance. That's very hard in young athletes because they're still very, very young, and performance isn't really an indicator for us. We want them to grow and develop. But actually, we maybe need to change and look at performance indicators to acknowledge their nutritional work. So, you actually ate more on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. You perform greater in terms of distances and sprint speed. And we don't really do that in elite sport. I don't think many clubs do that. But that's something that we need more collaboration with to help our players. But bear in mind, you have to do that for how many players? How many age groups? You think per age group 25, and you're doing 12, 16s. That's very difficult. So you've got to come up with ways. I'm trying to come up with ways to try and fix that problem. But also, they also wanted cooking skills. They actually wanted to know how to cook and what was in their food. And I think that's a fascinating one, maybe slightly overlooked, especially myself, because for me, key stakeholders such as parents are the food provider. They're the ones cooking. But actually, they wanted cooking skills, and most of them wanted it in a competitive state. They wanted to outdo their parents in cooking. They wanted to be better than their parents at cooking. And I think that's fascinating. And just shows how different young athletes are. They're so competitive. They're driven to be competitive. They want to be better than their parents at cooking. Now, this is only one academy, and other academies may differ, different social dynamics. But I think, again, it opens up scope to further warrant research, but also maybe change myself as a practitioner on how I work with young athletes. Rather than saying, here is how to cook for your son for football or daughter, actually, I need to be giving it to the young athlete and saying, this is what I want you to do. With parental supervision, this is how I want you to do it.
Yeah. It's almost as well giving them that life skill as well, like thinking after football or whatever the sport may be. It's like cooking quite a valuable life skill.
I think so. And getting, the one of the best things I think I found is getting first team involvement to discuss the importance of nutrition. That's one of the most powerful behavior changes that I found. Getting the captain to come down and say, listen to Alex. This is the advice. This is what you do in the first team. If you want to be playing with me, this is what you've got to be doing every day. But when he was doing it, it kind of led me to go, this is getting a bit serious. We're going a bit off this, but the boys were so engaged. They were locked in, not a word. I do a workshop, it's carnage. It's definitely that you probably need that collaboration with someone who is their role model. Because if a nutritionist becomes a role model, I'd love to speak to them and know how they did that within sport, because I think that is an unbelievable achievement. That's why I think my aim is actually to teach coaches nutrition advice, basic, so they can observe and identify nutritional behaviors and try and get more of a link to help motivate players, young players via first team. Ex-players are quite important as well because they're quite prevalent around the club still, and trying to influence those behaviors. And what's really important still is not to take away food from young athletes, all about adding, improving, just like anybody else, just like your general population or other athletes, trying to upgrade. So, if they're having a sandwich for lunch in their school lunch, can we add a banana? Can we add some baby bells for good protein? Protein's essential for growth and maturation, as well as energy intake. So can we add a couple more fruits in there? Can we add some more snack? What can we add to it? And then not overwhelm that player, particularly when they're going at 16. 16 is a tough age. One, because they're going through GCSEs, and that's a very tough time for us. Still called GCSE. And they got harder since I've done them, so even more difficult. Plus, 16-year-olds in football are told whether or not they get a pro contract or they're released and they don't have a club. So it's a really stressful time for parent and player and coach.
Yeah.
So it's an area where you have to be a little bit more careful, because you might be asking them to do something and they might be knowing they don't have a club next year, and it can be quite detrimental. It's all about taking that holistic approach per age group, per person, just trying to give them the best you can.
I was competing at the time doing A-levels, but for professional footballers, particularly because it's such a high pressure environment, I didn't even think about the whole thing of you got so much going on in your head. The last thing you want is the nutritionist going, you need to be doing this, this, and this. It's also the emotional impact must be huge.
I think so. And have you got to remember as well, you've only maybe spoke to that player a couple of times. Do you really know everything that's going on in that player? Can you fully say that I know what's going on mentally, psychologically, and physically, biomechanically? No. So what you need to do is guide that advice to try and give them better outcomes and let them decide, actually, I do have time after PE to have a snack. You know, it won't get me in trouble at school. You know, if I say you have to eat after PE, but they're not allowed to eat at school, they then get in trouble. There's a high food. I could be causing more problems. So try and discuss that pathway with them. So you have success on the right-hand side in the start. And that pathway of advice is just trying to guide them to that. And it's to their own success and their own guidance. They kind of choose what works for them, what behaviors to adopt. You might have to be a bit more kind of, how do you explain? Not forceful, but definitely more persuasive in some of your work, because some things they might be doing that could be detrimental, like not eating after games. You might say, actually, can we have a Nesquik afterwards? Maybe the parent wants to have a full-blown meal. But I know from working with players, sometimes it's really hard to eat before and after a game for players. One, for nerves, and then two, they have so much arousal. They're so excited. They're so into the game. They can't eat after, or they can't sleep afterwards. Yeah. And when a parent says that to them, I'm like, that's actually really common. That's actually, I see that a lot. So actually not giving them a meal and overwhelming them is a good first starting point. Can we give them Nesquik? Can we give them carbohydrates from the Nesquik and then great quality of protein from the milk? Is there other things that we can do? Yeah. And then all of a sudden you get a bit more buy-in from the player because they actually realise, oh, you're listening to me and you're trying to help me, and then you can get a better relationship.
I mean, I completely relate to that, because I remember back when I was competing that I really struggled with eating before because I felt really heavy and lethargic, and then afterwards I just couldn't sleep. You know, this whole the theory of like, oh, you'll come home from training, you'll be shattered. And I'll just lay there looking at the ceiling like, when is this going to end?
Yeah, and you probably are really tired, but you're really agitated. You keep tossing and turning. Your mind is still back on with the performance. Maybe something didn't go well. There's such a psychological element to nutrition. Maybe I would argue that university courses need to be as much psychological as much physiological, because often nutrition courses only focus on physiological responses, whereas someone's belief, cultures, how they feel after a game, before a game. We know players need to eat 2 days before a game, a certain amount of carbohydrates, but it's so much carbohydrate. If you said that, what does that mean to them? How can they do that? What more can we do? What sorts of sort of skills do they have? Can they even cook? There's other pressures, and if you start saying, if you don't eat this happens, you may just get a negative response, like, oh, I'll just get injured then. That's happened before when I first started at Gillingham. But actually just trying to improve on the go, like each week, can we do a little bit more? Can we add a bit more to the plate? Can we just go to bed a little bit earlier? Can we not use a phone 10 minutes before bed? Just starting slow, just starting small little habits and grow. And I know, same with general population, you see it all the time. This is all I see, a trend comes out and they have to, no phone 2 hours before bed, and they were on their phone right towards bed. It's not going to help you. What you should start with is just 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. Put it on the other side of the room. Just little tweaks in your house make all the difference. And just start slowly, and then start slowly for everyone. I don't know why people. Maybe it's like I'm sure there's a word for it, but it's a lot of people are all or nothing. It's 100% or zero.
It's because they want that quick fix, and they think if they work harder, then they'll get the result quicker. And you see it a lot you're probably seeing a lot in young athletes of like, oh, I'm going to train every day. The most humbling moment I had competing was I managed to pull my abs, hamstring, and shoulder pretty much simultaneously, and it put me out for about 12 weeks. All because I was training 7 days a week, because I was like, oh no, I've got to get better. Recovery is king.
And if you look at the research again, if you look at Burgomaster's paper from 2008, I think it is, the recovery point between each session is where you get your training adaptations most. So by actually resting, you're doing more in the long run. So your A to Z is actually better, but your A, B, and C is just slightly lower intensity. But your A and C days are really high intense, but you're just taking that B day to kind of relax, let the neuromuscular system recover. Hypertrophy needs to occur if you're trying to build up muscle. Training adaptation, the mitochondria, biogenesis needs to occur. All these things need to happen to be able to recover. And then if you think about it, recovery means improvement. So you're not recovering to rest, you're recovering to improve. And when you start talking about people like that, they go, oh, actually, okay. So if I recover, I'm going to improve my next session. But then they say, oh, well, my third session, I felt a bit lethargic. Wait 2 weeks. It takes time to build up those adaptations. It doesn't happen overnight either via one rest and you're then super strong or super fast. Over a long-term period of time, then you start getting faster, stronger, bigger, even better cognitive function, arguably, because you learn more about the skill in which you're doing. So that rest day, one bit of advice to everyone is take that rest day. I know there's people out there like David Goggins and who you can only respect and what he does, and the Worthing guy from here who ran whole length of Africa, they didn't rest at all. But they're very, they're the 1% people that are doing a certain thing, they shouldn't be applying to just you. Try and think about what you're trying to achieve.
100%. And we actually touched quite a lot on injury there. What part does nutrition play with injury in terms of, obviously, we know protein is great for muscle repair and muscle recovery, but what part does the rest of the puzzle play?
Yeah, I think not just protein. I mean, protein alone is not just muscle recovery and muscle repair. It's, it's all down to the cellular level. That's how important protein intake is. That's why I'd actually like to see the recommended daily intakes increase in the UK for the general public. Different topic. But in terms of recovery, nutrition, if you think about it, energy intake still needs to be relatively high for you to recover from whatever you've gone through. So your body effectively uses the energy in a very complex way. But for this purpose of the podcast, we'll just go a bit more simple. Imagine you've got that injury. You need energy. You need fuel to obviously go about your daily life, but also fuel that recovery, fuel that repair process. So whatever that injury may be, from hamstring to ACL, obviously the higher the surgery, the higher the risk, and you may need more energy intake. But energy intake is probably one of the most important alongside the protein intake. But for example, you still need to have a fiber intake to keep your gut healthy. Gut health is something quite new, but that's been associated with quite a lot of injury risk. And your general well-being. So sometimes what happens when people get injured is that they stop doing the nutritional habit because they just want to wait till they're recovered. I see it so many times, like, oh, I'll wait, I'll go back on it when I do it. And I'm thinking, if you have low micronutrients, you're going to be unwell. So if you have low energy intake, you're going to feel lethargic and tired. Your rehab's going to be terrible. All what happens is your schedule changes and your nutrition just changes alongside what you're trying to achieve. So instead of fueling for football, rugby, the gym, whatever it might be, you're now fueling for your rehab. You're now recovering from your rehab. You're now sleeping to recover better, also your injury as well. So you just have to just change your mindset a little bit on, actually, I need to keep good dietary behaviors because I want to have the maximal recovery rates. Now, you don't want a speedy recovery, that's what everyone does. You want high quality recovery. You want that meniscus tear to fully recover. You want that ACL rupture to fully recover. You want those hamstrings not again. How many times I speak to people in grassroots that didn't recover properly, didn't have good nutrition, and they still pull their hamstrings if they're like glass.
Mm-hmm.
Look at someone like Gareth Bale, for example. He had absolute glass hamstrings in the end. Eden Hazard, glass hamstring. That's what you want to avoid. I'm not saying to have bad dietary habits, but you want to give yourself the opportunity not for that to occur. So having a good nutrition quality is always going to lead to better health outcomes, long-term health outcomes, and recovery rates. And that includes your injury as well.
I think, as you say, it's that whole thing as well of that part of sleep plays in it as well, because sleep is a huge part of the recovery. And as we've said as well, it can be really tricky to get yourself into a good sleep routine. Is there anything like, obviously we've spoken about magnesium as it being quite a hot topic, but is there anything that can support with sleep when it comes to nutrition?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's evidence to suggest that 2 medium kiwis, before bed, has been shown to induce melatonin.
That's so random.
Because not only that, you get the benefits of kiwis. And from my understanding of the literature, it's not going to improve the time it gets to your sleep. It improves sleep quality. So don't expect to take kiwis and then be knocked out afterwards. That's not how it works. Something will come up with that. Some players said to me, like, I couldn't sleep last night. Didn't help. I was like, that's not how it works. I must have not. You weren't listening, were you? My second part of my speech. So essentially that can help. Tart cherry juice is a really interesting topic. I really like the evidence on tart cherry juice. But again, before we even go to nutrition, we also need to have good sleep habits. So even if you want to take tart cherry juice, have 2 kiwis, go on magnesium, go and look at your sleep. What are you doing that can improve your sleep? Can I do less phone time, 10, 15 minutes? Can I have less screen time before? Doing a PhD, so I know people that are doing a PhD, you're on the screen all day, every day, and you're on it till 10 o'clock and you're going to bed at 10:30. Yeah, and you're trying to switch off. It's so difficult. Same people that work in day to day that have families. It's a little bit more challenging if you've got kids because you're with a kid and you're trying to switch off. But just try and, even if it's 1 or 2 minutes, let's think of that. If you're doing 1 or 2 minutes, all you want to try and do, quote Eddie, the ex-rugby coach, you're just trying to improve by 1%. You're not trying to improve by 10, 20, 30. If you improve 1% here and there, that then makes up a much better profile of your health and long-term health, which is most important. But in terms of nutrition, I love the kiwi and the tart cherry juice. You can check it out on there's quite a few practitioners talk about it now. And then magnesium citrate is another one that's potentially good for sleep. But again, before that, don't waste your money on buying things. Go and do the free stuff first. Like, people love getting things for free, but unless it's a supplement, they love to buy a supplement to solve a problem. But just go and improve your sleep habits first. And then if it's still you want to improve it further, then go and invest in magnesium. Go get it from a reputable company, wherever you might go to, Healthspan Elite, or if you know a UK-based one, that's also good. Great, as long as it's reputable and they're giving out good messages. So they're saying magnesium will solve your sleep problem. You can bin them off straight away. Get rid of them. Don't even, just block them. But if they're saying it works alongside good sleep habits, works on a good lifestyle, and I really like companies that are trying to educate as well. I think they're the best one. One that are kind of like, there's decent people. They've got a product. They want to make you better money. Great. But they're also giving out advice alongside that. They realise it's not the answer, but it can help you. For me, they're the best people. And they're usually the smaller companies, in my experience. But that's just as a current anecdotal experience.
But then I think that's common across the board. Of the smaller the company, the more, I don't know, not bespoke's the wrong word, but more like nurturing the environment is, because they're trying to with my business head on, they're trying to capture market when they've not got the clout to capture market. So they've got to look after the customers they got. So there is some evidence there.
I think as well that because they have, they have maybe more time to actually work with the person. I'm not saying they're going to give you a full nutrition, a nutritional consult, but I think even the big brands can do it as well. They can send a message and say, I know they're going to say that will stop people buying it, but if you actually give them the good sleep habits and your supplement, they might actually get a better outcome.
Yeah.
And you may actually be helping them better by introducing, do a nice little graphic timeline, whatever. Here's, take your supplement, but also, can you improve your overnight protein, your recovery rates? Having a glass of milk as well. That's also going to help your overnight protein because many casein. There's little things you can do and help people. And this is such easy advice that it's all free. It's all free usually out there. You don't have to pay for it. So I don't know why companies don't do it. Maybe get a supplement company on and ask them why they're not. Why they're only selling supplements directly. I guess they have a business plan, a directive to sell as many supplements as possible. Probably.
But then also reputation goes a long way. That's the other thing to consider, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think that's probably why My Protein do the 30% for people that are in the gym, because they're relatable people. They're people that you probably see in your gym, local gym day to day. So, they're taking it. They're training well. They're a normal day-to-day person, or we have the same job. I can talk to them. That's probably their marketing plan, maybe. So that's why they did it, but I still don't like it.
But it's fair enough. And lastly, I just want to quickly touch on a topic that a lot of people in the gym struggle with, which is dealing with DOMs and how to sort of manage them. I think anyone that does any kind of physical activity's got some experience with them. So obviously you deal with the higher end of it because it's high athletes. They're going to be experiencing that a lot more. But what's some advice that you'd give in terms of recovery?
Yeah, so DOMS, so delayed onset of muscle soreness. First and foremost, I want whoever's listening, thinking about their training. What are you doing in your training? Are you training to fatigue or are you training for performance? If you're trying to chase fatigue, you're going to burn out. Your DOMS will turn into overtraining, and you'll actually go backwards in your training schedule. What I want you to do is try and look at your 1 week to your 12 week. Managing DOMS, I think, is a much wider conversation about managing your loading. So how much loading? So when we talk about loading, talk about how much weight you're lifting or how many sprints you're doing, or just your loading pattern of exercise throughout the week. Your loading pattern shouldn't be at 100% 1 to 12 weeks. If you do that, you're going to burn out. You're going to get DOMS, worse than DOMS, overtraining. Overtraining lasts up to a year sometimes. You can see that negative impact of fatigue. So what I would say is back into recovery. schedule in a recovery day within your training program. Before we go to nutrition, think about what you can do. Sleep and rest is one of the biggest. If I could put that into a pill, I'd be rich, because the benefits of that are huge. Napping 15 minutes a day, at 12 to 1 p.m., for example, if you trained early morning, unbelievable. That's going to help you so much. But get your schedule and monitor your loading. So you're not lifting heavy weights, you're not running 100% all the time, having rest days, and it's fluctuation. It should be a nice sort of like deviation line, up and down. So high intensity, low intensity, high intensity, low intensity. Because the overall outcome of your goal is what? Just to be healthy and fit. That's great. That's your marker. At the end of the 12 weeks, you want to feel healthy and fitter. If you want to run a 5K quicker, you should be able to run a 5K quicker if you monitor your loading better. Second point is always try and think about your nutrition within your exercise. So day to day, you should always have balanced diet, balanced breakfast, balanced lunch, balanced dinner, and so on. But can you periodize your nutrition? So if you want to take it one step further, can you fuel for the workout that's required, for the fuel for the demands that are required? So let's say, for example, you've got a 5K. Can you add in extra carbohydrates before, during, and after? Because extra carbohydrates are potentially going to be better performance.
Yeah.
On your day off, do you need that? Can you think, actually, tomorrow I'm going to go for a really big run? Okay, so you actually need to fuel for the day tomorrow. Always try and think about the day before, during, and after each day. So what day are we today? Wednesday today. So tomorrow I'm going to go on a 5K, and then on the day after I'm going to do a 10K run. So I need to fuel today, and ideally I should have fueled tomorrow, the day before as well, to ready for this kind of up and coming. So I should increase my carbohydrate intake over time, ready for those kind of events. But just think about what's coming up, and can you fuel during? So I think in gym sessions, typically speaking, I don't like to generalize, but you probably don't need to fuel during your gym session unless you're competing at a really high level. I think the day-to-day person can, on a balanced diet, be perfectly fine. But if you really want to give it a go, and I love, people say like, oh, why are you going an extra further for nutrition just for a gym session? I quite like it. I think it's good. If you really want to maximize your gym session, if you really care about your health and you just have a really intense hobby and you want to do something different in the gym, whatever it is, I think it's great. Can you take some carbohydrates, during your session and try and get extra at your bench press? I mean, there's mixed evidence about weightlifting and carbohydrate intake, but can you experiment a little bit? Can you increase? Stop trying to decrease. I know even people that are trying to lose weight, this is what I still love working with people that want to lose weight, because they're so surprised at what they can achieve whilst losing weight. And typically when you lose weight, you do lose strength. That just because you're in a calorie deficit.
Yeah.
But if you fuel for your workouts, you can get more out of them. How many times have you gone to your PT trainer and you felt horrendous because you're in a calorie deficit? But if you just mix your food timings around and have your carbohydrates mainly before, during, and after, you'll just feel fantastic. You're going to feel fuel for that session.
Yeah.
And I think that's how you can get more out of your session. I think general public can do, general gym goers can do well from that. You don't have to do it, but if it's something you want to do, I think it's available there to do, all the way to elite level. And that's how you manage D.O.M.S. But back to your actual question, I feel like I've gone away, but to manage D.O.M.S is that loading and fueling for that work required, and experimenting, trying to increase rather than decrease. The more energy we have, the more output we can put out there. The more carbohydrates we have during our session, 10 to further, we can run quicker. All these little things that people don't realize. Actually, if I just make one little, taper in my water, instead of just having water, can I have a hydration solution with salts, particularly at 30 degrees at the moment. I'm going to replace the salts that I've lost. I'm going to feel better after, we'll get a different energy. All these little cool things you can do, and it's all out there. Just you've got to find someone that's reputable and give that information. Because what you don't want is that question coming out, you ask your question, and then them sending you loads of products. That's what you don't want. You want someone who can give you that advice and kind of go, if you want reputable brands, here's what I've used, but here is the advice. Because you don't have to buy hydration tablets. You can just have sea salt. That's honesty. That's not trying to missell some information. You don't have to have a carbohydrate solution in your water. You can have a banana. Banana at 29p. There's other things you can do. But as long as you know the principles, you can then make a choice. You can say, actually, I don't want to eat a banana because it makes me a bit sicky. I'm going to go for a carbohydrate solution. That's right for you. And so on, if that makes sense. Yeah.
It goes back to our point earlier, but everyone has their own preferences, and it's okay to listen to those as well. And like you say, it's I think you hit the nail on the head of almost gamifying it, of try things out, see if it works. It's like anything when people come to me and go, "Oh, what sports do I try out?" And I was like, just try out everything, because you'll find something that you enjoy. And it's the same thing with, I imagine, nutrition. Of you'll find something that works if eating something during a session works for you, great. If it doesn't, don't do that then. Don't overthink it.
I think, and if it doesn't work, don't just think about why it didn't work. Just have a think. Oh, actually, I didn't like the taste. Can you change the taste? There's so many. The great thing about nutrition is there's so many opportunities and different options that we live in now a world of convenience. For sport, it's actually quite good. We obviously want a good base diet first before trying to add in sports drinks and carbohydrate solutions and caffeine gels and caffeine chewing gum. We want to do different things first, but it's so exciting. I think it's a fun thing to have. Provided your diet is already good quality, you have positive behaviors, and you're not getting your information from those people. I'm doing quite well. I'm not 4-1. Nor in my lecture, I sweat all the time. All those people that are giving you information that's negative, just constant negative information. And then they give you an alternative that's like £3 more expensive. When a good example the other day is someone was demonizing Jackie potatoes, the frozen ones.
Right.
You've got me on potatoes now. Potatoes are amazing. But they have McCann's have rapeseed oil, like 1%, and then the Baxter's ones have olive oil. And then someone's saying rapeseed oil is inflammatory. When the evidence suggests it's not inflammatory, actually, that rapeseed oil is actually anti-inflammatory.
And it contains omega-3. This is the thing, is that people pick one thing and go, that's the problem.
I'm
frustrating.
For a very small population, for a very small group of people, rapeseed oil won't be suitable. I'm sure we can find someone. If I did the research, there'd be some people that just can't have it. They're allergic. Great, they shouldn't have it. That's the extremes that you should go. You don't have to be scared of food. If you're allergic, obviously avoid it. Don't go and have something that you're allergic to just because a nutritionist tells you to. You don't need to go gluten-free for performance and health. There's nothing wrong with gluten if you're not intolerant. It's not inflammatory. This is all based on evidence. Then on the flip side of that, if you go gluten-free and you feel better, okay, that's fine. But it's maybe not because you've gone gluten-free. Maybe you've improved your diet quality. Maybe you've added non-gluten-free ingredients like fruits and vegetables. Think of it more holistically and why it's happened. Same with veganism. You feel better being a vegan. Great. Have you increased your fruit and vegetables? Are you have more micronutrients from beans and a more varied diet? Where before you were just having steak and chips. And just think of it more like logical, I think. And so when someone comes up to you and say, I've got the diet for you, have a little think, actually, I do just have steak and chips. Maybe if I add some stuff to it, I can feel better.
I mean, what's really interesting is over the course of the last few months, I've had a lot of people come on talking about holistical approaches, and so much of it comes back to it. It's a common thread that I've seen is so many people are coming back to that holistic approach of do what works for you. It's mad. As I say, I've had it come through from several guests, even if it's not their specialist area, and it's a weird thread to find.
I think why it works is because you can take 10 people on 10 different dietary patterns and all have really good health outcomes. One person can follow a Mediterranean diet. One could be a vegan. One could be, have a balanced Western diet. They can all have really good health outcomes. What I would say is what I'd ask people is it really working for you? Do you have energy? Do you feel lethargic? Because sometimes you might do, and you just need to sleep more. It's actually your diet's pretty good. You have your diet coke that people are told are poison when it's not. You're worried about the sweets you might have once a week with your kids or athletes worry about it now. Athletes worry about what they have. A diet coke is highly hydrating, and on a hot day, it's pretty good to get in athletes. So other people, you're not the only ones. So just do your own research, but of people that are good, not like Eddie Abdu, for example. I've got to call him out. That guy, I mean, I just got no words. But I can only respect people that have done well in the industry. For me, social media, it's not something I'm strong with. These people have blown up. They're, you could always call them celebrities now. They've been on, even the LB. And this is another problem. Our organizations are giving people that aren't nutritionists time and money and space to grow and tell their message. LBC gave Eddie Abdu, a session. Crazy. Stephen Bartlett is promoting Zoe and the glucose monitoring to non-people that are diabetic. This stuff, that's just what is going on. What has happened? Why do you need to monitor your glucose if you've got no problem? So you don't need to put that in your arm. You're going to get a natural spike because that's what happens when you eat carbohydrates. It's going to go up. If it doesn't go up, you've got problems. Then you would be wearing it.
Yeah.
So there's many issues, but go to find some people with a good source of information, people that are honest. And, unfortunately, I think there are more dishonest people on social media than there are honest people in the nutrition realm. Because of unqualifications, because of marketing, because of people like My Protein giving people space and money to promote supplements they don't understand. Herbalife, again, even worse. Allowing people to go around and tell them on 1,200 calories. It's baffling, and I would recommend, if I had a podcast, I'd get these people on and find out why they.
Oh, don't get me started. I would love to have Stephen on, and it's fair. I'd love to challenge it as well, because I think no one, like you said, no one does. No one challenges it. I mean, it's now you say it's so true. Why are they promoting it? And it's something I've considered before. I don't know, maybe because I'm disconnected from the community now, but.
Yeah. But why would the thing is, Stephen Barton's a great. His podcast originally, I really liked it. It was really interesting. Why would you challenge that? Because he's trustworthy, comes across really well. He looks genuinely wanting to help people. I think there is some element of good coming from it, but I feel like people sometimes are misplaced. I sound quite critical, but I think they're misplaced because I see a consequence of that. I can see someone getting obsessive over their. They're don't even need their glucose. Tim Spector telling people about, God only knows what he's telling people about. Buy his shot in Marks and Spencer's for £4. That will solve your gut issue. No, it won't. There's definitely a place of good coming from, but also a place of dishonesty. And I presume it's because money comes involved. And then, I don't know how much money Stephen got for promoting that. Probably quite a bit.
I think he's a partner in Zoe.
Yeah, 50 grams, for example.
Yeah, I think he's a partner in Zoe now I think of it.
There you go. So there's definitely wider scope. But I would say to people, just please think before buying stuff. Do you really need this? Do you really need to know are you diabetic for a start? If not, then ignore all that advice. Are you gluten intolerant? No, ignore that advice.
Yeah.
Go and try things that might work for you. And that's the kind of the best way to go. Provided you get your information, I'll say it again and again because I jump on about all the time. Get your information from good sources and reliable people. There are people out there, but you just got to sift through the. I feel like if anyone starts taking their top off, I feel that's always a red flag. Like if people are like showing their body to promote something, why I think that is because fair enough, you're in great shape, fair play to you, but why? You're never going to look like that person, and what has that relevant to what we're trying to achieve? I don't understand. Maybe in some circumstances, maybe weight loss, maybe your weight loss journey is going to be completely different to that person. If they're giving you a blueprint, what is that? There's no such thing as a blueprint for a start. So you've been out the door. There's just science, evidence, and then applied approach.
I completely agree. And I think you've pretty much answered my last question, but I ask it to every guest. So I'm going to hit you with the last question, which is, what's one piece of politically correctness that you really strongly agree with or disagree with? I have a guess on what this is going to be about.
I'm actually going to change it a little bit. I think slightly. If you look at the Green Party, and what I say is that the Green Party are very much like I live in Brighton, so we are the Green Party in Brighton. They have a policy about the planet should be vegan, or the UK should be vegan. Don't quote me, but that's one of their manifesto. I think again that is such a misrepresentation of what we should try and do with our nutrition and behaviours. We don't want to. If we were to turn everyone vegan, one, it probably wouldn't work industry wide. We're not ready, but we're not. And I appreciate if people have ethical concerns. That's fine. But in terms of nutritional health, think about what would happen. People won't understand. People can't meet micronutrients on a Western diet with meat. There's going to be iron deficiency, zinc deficiency. You're going to cause other issues. You may fix some problems, but you're also going to cause other problems. Now, as a vegan, you can be very healthy. You can live a very good lifestyle. There's good evidence for that now. You're just a bit more conscious about what you eat. But trying to make one policy fit all in nutrition misrepresents the evidence. So vegan, you can be healthy. Yes, absolutely. But saying that everyone needs to is misrepresenting and lying. It's just not true. Not everyone can go vegan. There are people out there that won't be able to do that. Just like some people can't eat meat.
Yeah.
That can't be a policy. A policy to make people have better dietary behaviors and make better choices, lower the cost of food, that's a better That's a better policy. How can we improve people's sources of food that live in London? How can we improve their fish intake? How can we improve, certain parts of rural areas that don't have much good sources of milk, for example? How can we improve these areas? That's a better policy for me.
Yeah.
No politician, but I'm very lucky where I live. I live by the sea, so my fish intake is great. I have the downs behind me. So this population here has very good food sources. But go parts of London where I work, you've got amazing markets for fruit, but you have very limited oily fish good sources that are locally sourced.
Yeah.
Those sort of policies, I think, are what are best. And I think many policies, every single manifesto that I read on the nutrition, none of them address the actual concern of dietary behaviours. They just jump on the trend of climate change. They jump on the trend of what's ever going on social media.
Yeah.
Regulate nutrition, number one. Regulate it. You've got to be accredited. If I want to go on social media and give advice, it has to be in line with my accreditation, SCNL. If it's not, I get banned or I get blocked, whatever it is. That's what needs to happen as well. Yeah.
I do completely agree. Like I'd say, now you've made me think of it. It is crazy how many people give advice and they aren't qualified. Like whenever I've given the limited advice I've given, it's always been on the caveat of like, I can give you this, but it's only from what I've learned. You have to do your own learning or go find someone that can teach you. I can point you in the right direction, which is perfectly valid. Like people should be allowed to do that, because I'm a big believer of, I like to call it referral culture. If you don't know the answer, but be able to redirect into another direction, or go to another person, I don't, but this person will. And that's what we also need to get to, is like, I think it feeds into so many things, because it's that one size fits all thing with what you say with the whole argument of trying to turn everyone vegan. It's the idea that one size fits all. We see the same in the disabled community of like every disabled person's in a wheelchair. It's not true. And then you see the same thing again when it comes to people wanting to steal thunder. We spoke about social media and everyone wanting the clout that comes to social media. But then also people aren't willing to redirect to someone who is a more specialist in that area. So again, redirecting it to my experience of disability, I don't have a clue about being autistic. So I'm going to redirect to someone I know who's actually autistic and go, speak to them. I ain't got a clue, but I know that person knows their stuff or is comfortable to talk about it. And it's the same thing. Really frustrates me that we've got this almost, it's like they say, everyone's got to win. It all comes from that. Everyone's got to win. Whereas I'm like, just bring the barrier to entry a lot lower and then everyone wins. But
I think so. I think it's a nice summary. And I think if you bring nutrition back to a place of honesty, I've said a lot of things about influence and things, but if you're an influencer, be honest about what your qualifications are. And if you are giving nutrition advice, you shouldn't, but maybe bring it from a place of just say, in my experience, I'm not qualified, but this is what I did and it worked for me. Then don't do a Kardashian and be on the coffee weight loss drinks. That's got to stop as well. Yeah. But try and bring it back to a place of honesty and grow. I'm not the person to ask, but growing on social media. But if we can bring it back to a place of, I'm actually going to follow this person's nutrition journey because I like them. They're not qualified, so I'm going to take it with a bit of pinch of salt. But some of the things they've done is actually working for me.
Yeah.
That then allows you to make better choices and be less misrepresented, I'd say.
And also it comes back to that, people buy into people.
100%. And as a nutritionist, the same thing. Your approachability is, if any sports nutritionists are listening to this and they want to go for a job, approachability is your number one attribute. You have to come across as approach, because you could be the best nutritionist in the world. I met some very, very good ones, but they're so unapproachable, they would never get a job in applied science because they've got no kind of smile. They literally can't even smile. They're so serious. They're so scientific. They're much smarter than me. That's fantastic. But I will get a better behavior change out of players than you, because I can just chat to a player and just relate to them, just get to know them.
Yeah.
So same with general public, same thing.
Not everything has to be business, but thank you so much for coming on, Alex. It's been a really great conversation. I've learned so much as well. I'll link all of your details below as well if people want to email you or ask you any questions. Thank you so much for coming on.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode of the Not Quite Podcast. Please make sure you follow us on TikTok and Instagram to get regular updates about the podcast.